Okay everyone, so welcome to this basic tutorial on how to create a website using HTML, and we will be using a template that was generated by Microsoft Word here as our inspiration for the website that we will be building that you can post online and used as a form of portfolio. So let's get going to our coding here. So I've actually already opened up my code editor here, and I've created a directory inside of my folders here or inside of my local computer. And now what I want to do is to create an index.html. So the idea here, guys, is that we will be creating this Microsoft Word template for a resume, and we'll be trying to translate it into a website from where you can use it as an online portfolio, okay? That you can showcase the skills that you have as a developer, or you can use it as an online resume that you can upload perhaps in GitHub or any hosting companies that are for free. So what I'm going to do first is to create an HTML5 template here, or boilerplate. So I won't be explaining too much about the details about HTML and HTML tags, but just to give you an idea, HTML is a hypertext markup language. It's giving instructions to the computer on how to display text inside of your document or inside of your browser. So if we don't have here hello world, any of those HTML tags or elements, you would see that once we try to go and open this inside of our browser, I'm using Firefox. By the way, you can also use Google or any of your favorite browsers here, but the idea here, guys, will be it's good that you have multiple browsers from where you will be testing your code here. So you would see here, guys, that there's an HTML markup here that is used by the browser by default. And if we go to the console tab here, let's see here what are the warning and errors here. There's an error saying that the character encoding of the HTML document was not declared. The document will render with garbled text in some browser configurations if the document contains characters outside of the US ASCII range. The character encoding of the page must be declared in the document or in the transfer protocol. So the character encoding that we will be using is the UTF-8. Okay, so you would see it's still being rendered by the browser. However, there's an error that's going on, and we don't have any means to go and apply some styling here. So HTML is used for giving clear instructions to the browser on what the content of the browser is all about, especially for search engine optimization and assistive technologies. That it will be very useful if you construct the layout of your code semantically. Okay, so HTML is more on giving semantic meaning to your document, and CSS will be more on styling or giving aesthetics, and JavaScript, if you're familiar with JavaScript, it's more on dynamic behavior. You're allowing the browser to, or you're giving instructions to the browser to have some dynamic behavior. So right now I placed inside of the title tag here some content, which is my name, and here we have the character encoding, the UTF-8. If you want to read more about this, this will be the instructions to the browser on what will be the character encoding that you will be using for this version of an HTML document. So we have the two main parts of an HTML document here, which is the head element and the body element. Anything inside of the head element will be needed by the browser, especially for assistive technologies and search engine optimization. Extra information that is needed However, they will not be rendered on the screen except for the title tag here. Okay, so you would see that if I save this and we go back to our browser here, you would see that this changed to Rodrigo Lopez, the title bar on our browser. So if I go and replace this with Rodrigo, you will see that it's there, right? If I go and change this to rodprogramdev, you would see that it's changing the content of our title bar. Okay, now if let's go back here. Now what I want to do here is of course to go and create a similar template here inside of our Microsoft Word here. So anything that you insert inside of the body element will be displayed by the browser. So let's say I put an H1 here and I would want to put the your name heading here. So let's go and let me just minimize this so at least we can work and see what's happening. Okay, so you would see that we were able to print inside of our browser and display the your name H1 here, the content of the H1 tags. We have an opening and a closing tag here that will be completing an element, what an element is all about. So we have the H1 opening tag and the closing tag here. And you would see that similarly here in some of the other parts. The doc type declaration, guys, is just telling you what version of HTML5 you're using or what version of HTML you're using. So let's say we use a doc type here, or let's use let me just go down here and then 4.01. Oh, it didn't work. So let me just see here. 4 emit abbreviation. So one thing that you can do here, guys, is for most of developers, this is going to be important. You doing some research. So HTML 4.01 doc type. I just wanted to show you here specification. So this is the version for HTML 4.01, and you would see that it has a much longer doc type declaration. Let me just see here. So one key thing that you will be experiencing as a feature developer will be you HTML doing some research. So having an ability to go and create a query or a question that will be generating the answer to your question through the use of the search engine, your favorite search engine. It will be very useful if you really do a lot of research. So you read documentations, you compare documentations coming from different resources. Okay, so here's the doc type HTML public W3C for HTML 4.01. You would see it's really quite complicated and you need to really be able to really specify this verbatimly. That means it should be exactly the same here, and that's why some developers before really cannot memorize that. But now, because we are using HTML5, we now have a much simpler doc type declaration here. So it's an important part of the document that tells the browser what version of what version of HTML you're using. And one of the main uses of the doc type declaration will be for you to be able to go and identify on whether you're rendering using the standards compliance mode, or let me remove this. You will see you will be rendering the browser. Let me just refresh. Sorry, I wasn't able to refresh it. View page info. You would see it's quirks mode and standards compliance mode. Okay, there's another mode and we call it almost standards mode. So just try to read about them so at least you will be familiarized on how the on what those are for, the HTML modes. Okay, so just wanted to explain that, guys. Now let's go back here, and now what I want to do here is of course to go and create some text here, but I will be placing it inside of a table because I want this text here and this space, and I would want them to be similar to table cells. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use a table element, and inside the table element, I'm going to use the tr tag that will be specifying the table row. So I'm going to have a th that will be specifying the table header. So for this table header, I want it to be empty. I don't want any content inside of it, because here we have an empty part here, right? And then we would want to create another table row and a table cell. Okay, and then that's where we will be placing our content: address, city, st, zip code. And if you're not familiar with the bar character, let's open up here the online keyboard here, or on-screen keyboard. That's where that's located on your screen. So you just need to press on shift key and then press this. You would see that it will generate the character here. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that, so at least just in case that you're not that familiar with the bar character. I call it bar character, but there's other, I'm not sure if that's the correct term, but again, now let's refresh this. Now we have that. Now if we want to generate a horizontal rule similar to this one, let's go put an HR after the heading 1 here. Okay, this is an empty element, so you would see that it will not need any closing tag. But if you want to go and comply with the XHTML version here, you will need to go and add the / here in each of your void elements or empty elements. Okay, just for additional information, guys. So let's refresh this. Let me just save that. Now we have a horizontal rule here. Now let's go and put create another section. So what I want to do here, guys, I'm going to put this inside of a section so that we can give semantic meaning to our document here, that this is the first section and this one will be the second section. Okay, now what I want to do here is to go and create this text, the objective text, and I want it to be smaller than the h1. So let's go and create h3 here, or use h3 instead of h1. So we have h3, and then let's put objective. Then after that, let's have another horizontal rule here. Let's refresh. Now we have the objective here. Okay, now let's go and create another table, and inside of the table row, let's have a th. And then let's go and let's have another table row and a td and another td. So these are table cells. Okay, if you want to, again, researching is going to become part of your job as a feature developer. Even senior developers do this, guys, so there's nothing to be ashamed of when you're doing your research. So that's a very common thing, because again, you won't be able to remember everything. And one tip of advice that I can tell you: know, understand, remember, and apply. That's my personal motto, or a personal acronym that I've made, that I teach to my students when it comes to any subjects. So you have to know that it exists. So we have to know that HTML tables exist. Similar to a language, right? You need to know that the word exists. You have to understand what this is used for. So we can see here, HTML tables allow web developers to arrange data into rows and columns. And in a language such as English, the English language, we need to know what the word is for. Let's say, what is a noun, right? And you have to understand. You have to understand, and then remember that this is a noun. Okay. You have to know that there's the word noun, a word other than a pronoun used to identify any class of people, places, or things. Then you need to remember and then apply, and how will you be able to use this in a sentence. Similar here in HTML or in any form of programming language, it's like you're learning a new language. The only difference is you have to be very specific when you're talking with the computer, because with the use of the English language, you might make mistakes, or you might make mistakes in your grammar. However, the other person will be trying to comprehend what you're trying to tell them. However, with the computer, if you make a mistake, you will run into an error. The computer will not be able to understand you. Okay, so that's just the idea when it comes to learning programming. So HTML. I just wanted to show you here some documentation. So you would see here, tag defines a row in an HTML table. Th will be defining text here, a header in a cell. Okay, and td, let's look for td. The td tag will be defining standard data cell in an HTML table. Okay, I just wanted you to know that this is going to be a very common thing, you reading through the documentation. Research, read, and then if you don't get to understand what you've read, reread it again, and then reread it again, and then reread it again, and then maximize the use of different documentations as much as possible. And then, of course, ask questions. Okay, the community of developers, I'm thumbs up. I have met a lot of people who I don't personally know, however, they are highly supportive. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay, so here we have here some text. So inside of the second TD, I would want to go and put the text that we have here. Check out the quick tips below to help you. I'm just going to create a line break here. So from line 31 to line 32, but this will not be affecting how this will be displayed on the screen. You would see here. So unlike with Microsoft Word, when you press on the enter key, automatically the next line of Word, it will be creating a line break when it comes to the display that we have here. But in HTML, that's not going to happen. Help you. So let's go and do this. Get started to replace tip text with your own. Let's just another line here. Your own. Just click it and start typing. Let's save this and let's see what will happen on our screen. So you would see here that the spacing or the line breaks that we've made did not apply here on the browser. So even if I go and add some spaces here, you would see that that will have no effect. So technically the line breaks here will not be taking effect unless we maximize the use of an HTML empty element similar with the HR element that we have here. So let's say we would want to go and specifically go and have a line break after the text word here. So we can use the BR tag here. Okay. So let's save that. Let's see what will happen. Now we were able to create a line break inside of our HTML document. So remember that the key thing here that we're doing, everyone, is that we are creating our HTML document here, and the spaces that we are doing here has no effect on the display inside of our browser. This is just mainly meant for us as developers. We create some spaces like this one. I created two spaces after the parent element here. So we have the tr as the parent element, and we have th as the child element. Here the table tag here is the parent element of the tr, th, tr, and td. Okay, so that means we are considering this as child elements of the table element. Okay, so I just wanted to explain that, but again, the idea here, the white spaces that we're making has no effect in the browser. So going back here, now let's go back to our elements here. Let's create another section. And then inside of the skills and abilities section, let's go and create the similar thing here. You would see that, guys, one of the advice that I will be telling you is to really follow through the code. That means try to get your hands dirty, be an active learner, watch videos or tutorials while coding, and what's most important here will be for you to understand how the code works. And that's why I'm showing you here that this is what's happening when we write the code here. Okay, so right now I'm here already here in the skills and abilities sections. Let's go and create another h3. We can actually just go and copy this part and control C, and then replace the content here, okay, for this specific section, because we have the objective and the skills and abilities sections here that almost have the same styling. So inside of the table cell here on the design tab of the ribbon, check out the themes, colors, and fonts galleries to get a custom look with just a click. So here, let's see if there will be, again, you would see that the line breaks that we've made here had no effect here. So let's say I would want to go and go to the fonts here, and that's where we will be placing the line break. Let's save and then refresh. There you go, we have the line break there. Now let's go to another section. Let's create another section here. And what I want to do here now will be to add some contents that will contain an h3 here, experience. Then, sorry for that. Touch typing is another skill that I would highly recommend, guys, because you won't need to go and look at the keyboard every time you're doing your coding here. So let me just save this. Let's see. Okay, so we have the experience here. Now let's go create another table. Then inside of the table, let's have a table row that will contain table headers, 2 of them. Okay, so that will be dates from -2 and the job title, company name. Let's save that. Let's see. So we now have that, right, guys? So we have dates from to and job title, company name. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go recreate this. Let's but before we go and recreate this, actually we have 2 of them here, dates from to, and after that let's have a tr in between. And inside of this we will be having tds, one empty and the other one will have the content. So this is the place for a brief summary of your key responsibilities and most stellar accomplishments. So you can replace the content of this, guys, depending on your need. So let's go and put a, let's first see how it looks like now. Okay, so we have that. So you will see that we now have some content here. Okay, so let's apply some spacing later on. Okay, now let's go and let's look at this example here and most. So let's go put a break element here, empty element. Okay, so there you go. Now let's go to the next part here. So So they have just the same content. So let's just go and copy this line here, Control C, and then go back here. Now we have the experience section. Okay, so let's go down to the education section here. Let's create another section. So now that we have another section here, let's go and because we have the same format here, what we just need to do is to copy this and put that. Of course, we would want to have an HR3 here and here up to this part, right? Or we can add another section here. We just copy all of this, the table here, save this, and then change this to education. And of course, let's go and replace the dates from 2. Then let's replace this with degree, location, and school name. So we're not applying any styling yet, guys. So I'm just working with the HTML document first. So we go and replace this with this. Let's see what will it look like. Degree, location, and school name. So we can actually just go and remove this table cell here. Let's remove this table row, this whole table row here. So this there won't be, and this one too, table row, right? Degree, location, school name. So now let's go back to our, actually we can use TD here instead of table header. So this, because it's just a table content, right? But this is the header for the table, so that we can actually also do that here. Let's just use a TD here, table cell, because based from the content here, this is just a normal Calibri 11. From here, it's just normal text. This one, it has the date command here in the heading section of our Microsoft Word. Okay, so at least we'll have that very simple text, plain text here. Now let's go down to our, so we have the experience, is the education part. So let's replace this with the education. Oops, sorry, I got, this is experience because this is from the experience section. Now let's go create another section here. See that we have an objective here, so let's replace that objective. What's the objective? Skills and abilities. Objective, your name, objective, skills and abilities. Okay, so this is perfectly normal, guys. Every time that you're coding, you might encounter some mistakes with the content or with the code. So what's important here is on how you debug and you find the errors in your code. Okay, so now we have this here, skills and abilities, education, then communication section, right? So let's just copy this, Control C, replace this with communication, and this has the same content as this one, so perhaps better to just copy this, so at least we won't be getting ourselves confused too much. Now the only thing that I would want to replace here is the content. You delivered that big presentation to rave reviews. Don't be shy about it now. This is the place to show how well you work and play with others. Okay, so again, this is just plain text here, our plain content for the section here. So let's just copy this one here and then replace this with a leadership content. Now let's see here, let's open up. Okay, so we have a very basic layout already in our browser, right guys? Now let's go and proceed to adding some styling. So I won't be using external style sheets, guys, but instead I'll be using internal style sheets so that I will not be getting you confused too much from jumping from one file to another. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an internal style sheet that we can select some parts of our document and style them. So this is what style sheets are used for, or CSS. So here we have a body declaration for a CSS declaration that contains a element selector. You would see that the Visual Studio Code that I'm using here is selecting the body element here, and it's referencing the word here inside of the body element tag, and it's now being targeted so that we can apply some styling inside of the body element. So I would want to have a margin of 5% within the whole document viewport. You would see here we have a document viewport here, guys. You will see it gave a 5% from the top, right, bottom, and left. So actually, if we give a declaration of a single declaration here, that will target the top, right, bottom, and left part of our browser. But if we give two declarations, let's say I would want to have 10%, this will be targeting the right and left, and this one will be targeting the top and bottom. So you will see now we have more space on the sides, on the left and the right sides of our browser. Okay, and of course we want to change the font family to Calibri, because the default value of the font family inside of the Microsoft Word here, so at least we can try to copy that, will be Calibri. So if I go and save that, let's see what will happen here. Okay, so you will see that the font family change. Just in case that the browser doesn't accept Calibri, let's say for example Google Chrome doesn't have a default font family of Calibri, we can put a backup file here, or backup value. As we can see here, we have sans serif, Arial Helvetica. These are built-in font families inside of browsers most commonly. So we have, just in case that Calibri won't work, we have a backup value here. So at least the content of the browser will still have some sort of font family that it will be rendering on display. Okay. Now, with regards to the HR element or the horizontal rule, I also want to select that, and I want to give it a 2-pixel absolute length value. So you would see now that we have 2 pixels of absolute value inside of our browser. And I would want to remove the sides here, because here we don't have any border on the left and the right. So let's go and select that border left, and let's give it a value of 0, and border right and a value of 0. Let's see what will happen here. You will see it's the same now. Okay, so at least you got the idea on how to do that, guys. We can actually remove the border, add some height on our HR, and that will be producing the same content here. Now let's go and select the table element, and then inside of the table element I don't want any padding, so that will be so you would see that nothing happened here. And for the th element, I would want to go and try to apply some padding, right? Let's just see what will happen of 15 pixels for each of the th. So you would see that there's now a bit of space in each of the the text that we have here, right, guys? You would see, right, there were some spacing from the table header here to the table cells, because we added some spacing there. So if I give this a background color of green, let me just show you here. There you go, you guys. So it added some space from the right, padding right. So if I remove this and let's go and make this 0, let's see what will happen on the screen. You would see that there's no more space inside of the box that we have here, the green box. So if I go and declare this as 50 pixels, you would see it will add some padding inside of the box. So, oops, is that the correct? Sorry, that's not the one that we want to select. It should be here, 50 pixels. And let's go and remove the right value. I just wanted to see I just wanted you to see here that we have a padding of green background color, padding or spacing inside of the box or the element. We are adding spacing on inside of the element that we have here. Just remember, HTML elements are all considered as boxes inside of our document here. So let me just go and remove this, guys. We don't want that. I just wanted to show you that. And I want to specifically target the padding right, and I want to give it a 15 pixels here of value. And we're actually almost done here. So we now have a very simple layout here. And let's see here. We can see here that this is not aligned properly, right, guys? This is not how it's displayed on our resume here. You would see that there's some space here and here, right, guys? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to apply some inline styling using an attribute of an element. So I would want to go and select the th here for the table here before our your name heading 1 for section 1, and I want to use the style attribute. Every element has an attribute, guys. So we can see here the language attribute specifying the English language, because if we don't specify this, that means this might be rendered in a different language, or it's best practice that we have an en here. You can also use es for Spanish. Here we have a attribute char set character encoding, because if we don't have this, based from the error that we've encountered during the first part of the lessons, you would see that it's saying that the text will be garbled, especially if, for example, some users or clients or viewers of your website will be viewing it from a different country with a different language. So this is the standard character set that you can use, or character encoding. Okay, so that's the very basic. Actually, the Microsoft Visual Studio Code here is already helping us out, filling out the necessary metadata here. So going back here, guys, where is that? I would want to go here inside of our style attribute, and I would want to give it a padding left. Padding left. So let's see what will happen in our browser here. Let's save that. Oops, there's no value. So we want to give it a 100 pixel. Let's have a 100 pixel value for the padding left. So let's try to refresh. So nothing's happening here. Let me just go and add a table cell here, guys. Okay, there you go. So let's say we give this a 50 pixels. Okay, so you would see 50 pixels. It moved there, but what we want to do here is to, let's say, 60 pixels. Okay, and 70 pixels. Now it's aligned with the name word here at around 70 pixels, right? So I think 70 pixels will be enough, because it's similar to this one. It's aligned on the name here, but we should add an email here, right, guys? So now let's go and go down here. Let's apply the same values here. So let's control C this, replace this, And for us to not have a difficult time, guys, there's a quick format that Visual Studio Code provides, the format document option here. So at least you will see here that it formatted our document much quicker. Okay, so let's go and see. Okay, we're good with that. Now this one, let's see here. For the objective, we're already done with the objective here. Let's see where should we also apply this. Table heading for the skills and abilities. We also want that inside of the skills and abilities here. Okay, so where else? What else do we see here? We can see that this here, we can actually go and apply some styling here. We can have them, we can italize this. So let's have, and go use the italic tag here. So if this has some sort of an important part of your document, instead of using I, you can use the EM. Okay, let me just show you first what that will look like. So you will see it's now italicized. Similar in Microsoft Word, we have the italic value here. So if I go down here, you will see it's the italic value for the command button to italicize your text. That's the use of the italic name here, or italic tag. However, if we want to give emphasis to this text, we use the EM tag, and nothing's going to change here because that will be just the same display. So just remember that the italic element is used for presentation, and the EM tag here is used for giving semantic meaning to your content. Let's say this is an important text, so we use EM instead of I. Okay, so we can also apply that here, EM. Let's put the company name here inside of the, save that. Okay, now let's see here. Let's also go and do that for the school name. Let's go down here. Let's use EM instead of I, just to be able to give semantic meaning and not just giving it some presentation, or not just using it for presentation. Okay, so we have here, okay, we have school name. Actually, we can add some more because from elementary, secondary to college, right guys? We can actually add another one here. That would be, it may be one only, we only have one educational value here, but I would want to add one more because you might be studying from elementary, secondary to a university degree or bachelor's degree, right? So now let's go to the communication here. Let's go back to our code here. Let's go select this, then go down to our th here, so that we won't need to copy that anymore. So let's refresh. So we now have a very basic HTML template for our resume, right guys? So if I go, let me just, okay, we already have a very basic HTML website that will be containing your basic information for as an online portfolio, as an online resume. So let me just go and change the color here to gray. Okay, so it's almost similar, not totally the same guys, but at least we already have the basics, right guys? Basic layout. We can actually add some more, so at least we can try to use 100 pixels here. So let's go and let's see what will that look like once the full browser is. I think I'll go with the 100 pixels instead of the 70 pixels. Sorry for the dogs, guys. There are a lot of dogs in my house. I have 4 dogs. So let me just see here. Because we're building this specifically for desktop screens and not for mobile. So I just wanted that to be more aligned, right? So we can see now that each of the table cells here are more aligned with one another. And here, I think we should go and also put some break here about it. Let's go and put some line breaks here. And here we also have theme for the word theme. Where's that theme? Well, you work and head or on the board. You delivered that big presentation. Are you president of your fraternity leadership? Let's replace this. Are you president of your fraternity head? Oops, we don't want that. Head of the condo board. So I think this is more on your background during college. And of course the break line here, line break. Lead for your favorite charity. You're a natural leader. Tell it like this. Oops, we don't need that. So let's see. Okay, guys. So that will be all, guys. I just wanted to show you here that we can actually maximize the use of a basic layout for resume, for for your portfolio. So it's a very basic website, guys, but you can use this already as part of your portfolio. Let me just close this. So I'm hoping that this gave you some idea on how to build a website, even with the use of the layout that we have here. For a basic resume template of Microsoft Word, we were able to translate it into a website. Okay, so thank you and see you on our next lesson.